Hi and welcome to TonyeCreates. My name is Tonye, and in today's video I'm going to show you how to create a glass effect in Photoshop using the layer styles effect. Now this effect can be applied to both text and shape objects, and it is non-destructive. Alright, that being said, let's dive in to this video. So first of all, right here I have my setup already made. Basically what I have is just the background that I've created using a texture and just colors, just to give it like a base that I can use to work on this effect. And I have a text, live text is typed out, just the word glass. You can type out whatever word you want to use. So first of all, I make sure the text layer is selected, and I click on the layer effect. I go to bevel and emboss. So once I go to bevel and emboss, if I've had an effect that I've created before now, you have the settings right here. So I want to clear and reset to the default list. So once that has been done, first of all I go to bevel and emboss, and once I click on bevel and emboss, I make sure that my style is set to inner bevel. The technique is smooth, and depth 1000%, and direction up or down, it all depends on you, what you are trying to achieve. Then the size, I make it 13. I can increase or reduce, it depends on you. You can play around and try out and see what effect you get. So in this case I'll just use 13. Then for soften, I'll leave it at 0. And shading, you can choose whatever shading you want, the angle of the shading, where light will come from. So in my own case I'll use 121 degrees. I make sure that use global light is checked, so that every other effect that I use, every other style that I use, will use the same light direction. If I uncheck this, the lighting effect will not look realistic because the lights will come from different directions. But in this case I want the light to come from the top left corner, so I make sure this is checked, and I can leave this at 32. And for the gloss contour, for yours it may be the default, which is linear. In my own example, I'm choosing this one, which is called ring double. Make sure that is checked. I've picked that. You can experiment and see, you know, what you get. In my own case, the ring double achieved what I wanted to achieve. Excuse me. So for the highlight mode, I chose screen, and I made this white. Opacity, I make it 100%. Shadow mode, screen and white, and the opacity is 0. So we move on to the next one, the contour. I click on the contour, which is not compulsory, it's optional. Depending on the effects you want to achieve, you can play around with this and see what you get in your own case. So if you look at this, when I click on the contour and I shift it, and I shift, you notice that the effects on the text begins to be kind of forming two sharp edges. So in this in my own example, I'll leave it at 100, which I am satisfied with. We now move on to the next effect we're going to apply, which is inner glow. So I click on inner glow. So for the structure, the blend mode, I will change this to overlay. So once I have that as overlay, I'm okay with that. The opacity, I'll leave it at 0, or I play around with it and see what I get. For the noise, I leave it at 0. Then for this, the color of, you know, the glow, for the inner glow, I can play around and choose colors that I want. We can still come back to this and change the settings, so I'll just let it be at that. For the elements, I'll leave this as the technique as softer, and I'll leave my source from the edge. Then for the choke, I'll leave it at 19, or I can increase and decrease and see what it gives me. But in this case, it's not showing me anything for now. We'll see how we can change that later on as we proceed. For the size, we use 27 pixels, and for the quality, I'll leave it at 63 I can leave the jitter at 6. We can choose to check anti-aliased or not. And the next one, I go to the drop shadow, but we'll come to the drop shadow later. So I've had the basic setup of the glass effect. So I click on OK. So once OK is clicked on, you now see that it doesn't really look like glass yet. So the next thing we're going to do to kind of finalize or to bring our effect to that level where we begin to see that it looks like glass, we go to the fill, this fill opacity, and we pull it down to 0, and you see right off the bat the effect has been applied. You see that this is a see-through. If I move this anywhere I move it to, it interacts with whatever is at the back of the text. So I'll go back to my effects by double clicking on the FX icon, and the next thing I'm going to do is that I'm going to play around with this. Let's just see what it does. You see that the glass begins to take on a different property. It begins to look like a kind of contoured glass or a ripped glass. So in this case, I think I'll just leave this at 30. I think that's okay. It looks the way I want it to look. I can you know, try out this opacity and see what it looks. Just experiment and see what you come up with. And noise, I can increase or decrease the noise. It gives me a different kind of glass effect. It's beginning to look like a kind of frosted or glass that has some particles in it. I'll leave it at that. And for the size, if I increase this, you notice that the size of the inner glow begins to increase. But in this case, I will leave it at say 9. Maybe I take it down to 9. I can leave that. I can change this color if I want. So if you see, when you change the color, what it just does is that it begins to pick off the properties. Maybe it's the colored glass you are trying to the effect you are trying to go for. But in my case, I'll just leave it at I think it was yellow. I'll just lighten that, and maybe I move towards white. I'm okay with that, and that's that. So I want to add a final touch. Maybe I'll just add a drop shadow, and in this case I want to reduce the distance. I want to reduce the size and the spread. I want to reduce it, the distance. Let me just take it out a little bit. Spread. This is just playing around to see what I achieve. I can reduce the opacity of that, reduce the size one more time, and the spread. And one other thing I'll do, you see this icon that's checked here, layer knocks out drop shadow. That's the layer knocks out, but in this case I don't want to knock it out. I want the shadow to be seen through the glass, so I make sure that is unchecked and I click OK. So basically that has been applied. So I have my glass effect all ready to go. So let me just duplicate this and show you that this effect is live. I'll hide this layer. Let me change this text. I can call it a block, and you see that it's still glass. It's still glass. That's the beauty of it. So let me show you one more thing before we go on. I'll click on the shape. I'll just click a shape, any shape at all. So once I have it there, I'll hold down my Alt and Control, click on this icon and drag to apply it here, and you see that the effect has been applied on this shape, which was great. So I just finalize it by clicking and dragging and removing the fill. I'm making the fill 0%, and you see that that shape picks up that glass effect. One more thing you can do, so that for every project you do that you want to apply this effect, you don't have to create this every single time. What I would do, let me hide this layer. What I would do, I just go back to my layer where my effect layer style has been applied. I go to effects, or you go to window, styles. So once you click on the styles, this panel shows up. So what I'll just do is that, making sure that that layer is selected, I click on this plus icon, and this dialog box comes in. It's creating a new style that you can save and distribute. So I'll give it a name. I'll just call it glass. Maybe I call it TonyeCreates glass. Yeah. So I've named it include layers, layer effects, yes. Include layer blending options, yes. I can decide to add it to my current library online, but I don't want to do that. So once I click OK, you have it right here. As a bonus, you will see a link in the description with this style, where you can download this style for free. Yeah, so that concludes the tutorial for today. I hope you learned something. Don't forget to share, like, and subscribe, because every week I bring you new videos. Do take care and catch you in the next video.